And buenos dias, I think. Good morning. Okay, I think audio is good, as far as I can tell. And good morning. This is a turbo edition of I Need Coffee Weekly BC Review because I need to head to the airport. So I'm trying to squeeze this in before my flight. So, good morning. Necesito café, por favor. Okay, let's start. I'm a little early this morning because, as I mentioned, I got to go. But weekly projects, two kind of side things I am working on. Someone mentioned, um, let's see, did I get these out of order? Let's see. Oh, hardened devices. So this is something I've been looking into for a little while, meaning a couple years. Or more. And this is the idea that you will take a Windows computer or Windows laptop. You could do it for Linux, but I just know Windows a little better. And you will harden it, meaning you will reduce the attack surface, you will maximize security settings, you will take certain precautions during installation configuration, and basically try to improve the security stance and reduce the security risk on that Windows device. And there have been many guides over the years, and they change as Windows changes, as features change, as tools change. So it's not easy to come up with one Windows baseline that's going to last several years. But I found some resources on Windows 10. A few of those are obsolete or disappeared already. So I'm now looking into Windows 10, Windows 11, and trying to find new guides. I have one laptop that I purchased just as a dedicated hardened Windows laptop to make it a secure laptop, just to see how that works, what the limitations are. And there are significant limitations and restrictions. You cannot just implement these hardening policies on a corporate laptop because it simply will not function in a corporate environment if you go full hardcore security mode. So you have to be really careful and understand, okay, when I do this, it basically breaks all my applications or it breaks networking or yeah, really you can run into some trouble if you're not careful. So you need to test it, figure out what's going to break when you implement some of these policies. And many of the guides warn you, hey, if you're going to go full tinfoil hat lockdown mode, you basically won't have internet access. So it really just depends on what you need to use the laptop or device for. So I am working on that. And also, someone mentioned, or actually, a couple people I kind of heard about something called Graphene OS. And I was like, yeah, whatever, it's kind of super fringe. And, but then there were a few apps that got pulled or dropped from app stores in different countries and their restrictions. And I'm like, huh. So someone reminded me of Graphene OS. They've been trying it. I was like, okay, kind of along the lines of Windows hardening. And I read about Graphene OS. I thought it was just kind of an open source alternative to Android. But turns out it's a ground up security first kind of re-implementation of Android on a mobile device. And it's pretty impressive. Like there is some drama apparently in the history, but the write up on the webpage, like, yep, checking all the boxes of a security conscious implementation of Android. So you're not going to use the stock photos app or the camera app or whatever default apps. All of those are removed, and some of them are replaced with alternative implementations. So really interesting implementation. So I ordered a Pixel 8, installed Graphene OS, and I didn't know what I was doing, but Graphene has really good instructions. I was clueless. I didn't know what this bootloader, turn off OEM, lockdown mode, or whatever. I didn't understand a thing. I just kind of followed their instructions and bumbled my way through, figured it out. And it wasn't that hard. It's baffling. I don't quite understand what I did, but I was able to get through it and installed just fine, super slick. And I'm using something called Obtainium. I guess once you use Graphene, you don't use Google Play Store, so you have to find some alternative method of installing apps. And there's this really neat app called Obtainium that allows you to paste in a GitHub URL for the open source apps that you want. And it pulls directly from GitHub and installs the APK for you. Super slick. Obviously, you're limited on what apps are supported, but I'm pretty impressed so far. It's not going to be your typical daily driver for, whatever you're doing on your normal phone, but for a hardened device, a security conscious mobile device, it's an interesting project. And I think there are alternatives out there to Graphene OS. I forget their names, but that's what I do in my free time. And on a similar note, attending the, oh, wait, there it comes. It was a little slow. That's the Graphene OS logo. So that's what I've been playing with there. And on a related note, last week I attended the Black Hills Information Security session on IP cameras. And I've been playing with and setting up IP cameras for, over 10, 12 years now. So I'm fairly familiar with them, but I thought, hey, I might learn something. And I knew 95% of the content that the expert presenter discussed, but he did remind me of one thing that I haven't taken care of, and that is to always put your IP cameras on a separate VLAN that is locked down, isolated from your network. I have not done that yet. And I have VLANs for my wireless networks, not for my wired network, because I'm not an expert, but my understanding is I need to have port configuration for my VLAN. So I need a dedicated port for a certain VLAN to do the VLAN tagging. That's my understanding. I need to look into it again, but it becomes a hassle when you have this messy ad hoc wiring that you had to implement in an old house and it goes everywhere. So I'll now need to trace all the wires, have dedicated wiring just for the IP cams, have dedicated ports that I assign to VLANs, label those, make sure I don't screw those up because those ports essentially isolate that network segment, and make sure I can get everything into my NVR on a VLAN as well. So it's not something you can do in 5 minutes or even 5 hours probably. So I need to go throughout the whole house, tag all these ports, make sure everything's isolated and implement it. But it's on my to-do list. So moving on. And by the way, post questions into the chat. It should work with Twitter. I don't know how you post the question on Twitter. I don't think replying to the live stream works. I think you got to go into the live stream and type a message or something. Yeah. So if someone's in there, post instructions on how to do that. And then a comment on YouTube will show up, and also on Twitch for all one of you that watches this on Twitch. So come on in and post a question for Q&A at the end. I don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but let's give it a try. It could be about Business Central, like question about weather patterns, probably not my bag, but moving on to Monday, lunes in Spanish. Monday was the day of random PTEs, and my question to you is, am I the only one who gets requests for seemingly random PTEs? Like, we get requests for, I talked about last week, like, Business Central notes are great, but we want a custom note. We want a special note that's different than Business Central notes. And it turns out that's not easy to do, apparently. Like, you can't just take the BC Notes feature in the Factbox pane and replicate it and go on your merry way. That apparently is kind of a proprietary, funky black box implementation that we can't do in native AL. If anyone knows how to replicate that actual BC native note functionality, let me know. But we've been chatting about it, and we're not aware of a way. So, and then we have these others like, oh, we want you to hide this and had this field. And it's like, wait, what? So it's just stuff that in the Dynamics GP world, we didn't really have all of the dev tools and options and flexibility. So it was a bit of a barrier for customer to get a customization. And so when they wanted a customization, they really had to think about it to determine if it was worth the effort. In BC, customers seem to say, oh yeah, I want this and this and this. And once they see that customizations can be done, we get some requests, and I'm thinking, okay, you want a list page that shows these fields? Okay. So it seems to just be more common. So this is a statement of work. Hopefully it's all blurred, where this customer wants to combine two different workflow entries list pages, because the way they're using workflow, they want to be able to see everything with no filters. And if someone's out, they want to be able to see what might be stuck in that user's queue. And I'm thinking, is this the only customer that wants this? Is this an unusual request? Or is this a sensible request that BC just doesn't accommodate well for whatever reason? So that's what I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't been implementing BC or creating BC customizations long enough to know, is this a weird customer request, or is it just BC has weird functionality in this area? Welcome, Jeremy. Yes, the just one note request, the just one field request. And I mean, some of these you're like, oh, okay, given your business process, we can rationalize our way all the way through where this customization fits. But if I were to hand this to an objective observer, they'd be like, wait, what are you doing? Why? Like, that seems really strange. So I don't know at this point. And this occurred when we were trying to test, and I think this hopefully is resolved in version 24. We're trying to deploy a PTE and test it, and the deployment failed. The app is already published in the tenant, even though it isn't. It's the first time I've installed it. And I think someone described this as a race condition with the database. And so essentially a record got inserted, but then something follows up and it's like, oh, wait, the record is already there. I think that's what's going on. And I think they were publishing a hotfix to address this. And Jeremy says, I'm sure a significant percent of these PTs have tests and are deployed with CI/CD. Of course. Come on. Who doesn't have 100% test coverage? Actually, yeah, we have now evolved to have a slightly different philosophy, but at least we have pipelines now using Cosmo Alpaca. That was a big challenge. So baby steps, right? Paso a paso, as they say in El Salvador. And so I'm following up on the screenshots. This is what the customer wants. They just want it as a special note. And I guess that's not as easy as one might think, unfortunately. Okay, turbo mode, moving on to Tuesday, martes. ERP Center of Excellence update. I am going to be working with 2 new prospective candidates who, I'm told, speak very good English. One is an English teacher, and one has worked at English-speaking call center work with United States or international companies. So, looking good. We're going to start discussing a Business Central consulting training with them. So that's good. And we have an office in Berlin, El Salvador, but the problem is it's pretty empty right now. And tile floor, bare walls, concrete windows. It is a highly reflective room that sounds like an echo chamber. So the wonderful folks in Berlin at the community center there are helping me turn it into a nicer environment where the echo doesn't make you go deaf or crazy. And this is their podcast studio. They have figured out a recipe in the middle of nowhere, El Salvador, to create pretty good homemade DIY sound panels. So they found some wood furring strips. They found some foam hardboard insulation that you would normally, like two inch foam insulation panels, like 4x8 size. And they wrapped them. They went to a fabric store, found some nice canvas and wrapped them. And they came up with these homemade sound panels. And based on initial tests, it sounds really good. So that was promising. And one way instead of just sound panels, I am going to, one moment, getting some spam. Um, I am going to hire an artist, a local artist, to do a painting on canvas for one of our sound panels for the center. And so this is about education and connecting with the world. The theme is kind of El Mundo. And so this will be about students in Berlin, El Salvador, learning and connecting to the world through their education. And so the artist came up with this theme. I think it's brilliant. I love it. So I am commissioning her to create a painting for our office. So that's pretty neat. And moving on to Wednesday, miércoles. Man, I'm gonna have to practice that one. Wednesday, holy cow, MVPs left and right. It was crazy. We thought we had 3, then 4, then 6, then 8, and then 9. I'm not sure if there was just a backlog or what happened, but 9 Business Central MVPs in 1 month announced at 1 week. Pretty crazy. So I apologize. I'm going to try to pronounce your name. We have Tyne and Killian and Willem and Duilio and Tom and Gerardo and Rob and Cecile and Cynthia. Congratulations. 9 new Business Central MVPs in the month of, I guess, May 1st. In the month of May, congratulations all. They are all over the world. I don't even know which countries they are in. Rob and Cecile and Cynthia are in the United States, I know. I forgot to check where everyone else is located, but congratulations. I'm just baffled. I can't even keep up with all the names that are popping in the MVP buzz conversations, but congratulations to you all. And upcoming event, próximo evento. We have Dynamics Minds coming up soon in Slovenia, May 27th, 29th. If you are in Europe, or if you fancy a nice, beautiful vacation in Slovenia and want to travel there, I highly recommend checking it out. It is an awesome Dynamics 365 and Power Platform community conference and super cool. They have a really creative, clever, witty theme, social media, graphics, really neat. And I would love to attend. I'm clear in Los Angeles. It's a brutal flight to get over there. And obviously I've got some commitments in Latin America. But if you're over in the Slovenian neighborhood, head on down, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the like resort vibe, and check out the conference. It looks like a lot of fun. And Jeremy Viska and I did a live stream a while back talking about last year's session. So bring up your search fingers and go find that live stream on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Steve Endo. So register. There is still a slightly discounted registration fee, kind of semi-early bird. So go ahead and register before it goes to full price, and head on over to Slovenia, May 27th through 29th. Okay, tool of the week. I tweeted about this a while back. Check out Local Send. I previously used a different tool for this. It was kind of web-based, and it worked. It just wasn't quite as reliable. This is a free open source tool, localsend.org. Excuse me. Localsend.org. It has a Git. Okay, one moment. Coffee. It has a GitHub repo, so you can install it on your Graphene OS phone. There you go. No App Store required. I did test it. It's super cool. So here I have the lighter colored screenshots are my Windows machine. The darker colored screenshots are my iPhone in this case. And I wanted to transfer photos from my iPhone to my computer. And I have a different way of doing that, but it's like, hey, I just want one photo. I want to do it now. And so this is an awesome tool. It works really well. You can have multiple devices, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, Linux, you name it. Open source, like I mentioned, super cool. You can do files, you can do clipboard, you can do photos from your photo library. Just super slick, check it out. And this is thanks to Techno Tim. Great YouTube channel for stuff like this. He's got all sorts of home lab and IT and app recommendations and tutorials. youtube.com/@technotim, or he's on Twitter @technotimlive. And he's the one who taught me about Uptime Kuma. So I use Uptime Kuma based on one of his videos. I'd never heard of it. It was exactly what I was looking for. So check it out. QR code in the upper right. Thursday, jueves. I don't know why I have this on Thursday. I think I had to research this. I don't know where or when or how it came up, but the term EDI came up. And I'm not an EDI person. Excuse me. I haven't implemented it before. I've only had a few customers who have ever used it back in the Dynamics GP world, but it's come up a couple times in the EDI world. It's been mentioned, and it's unclear whether the customers actually need EDI. We've learned that EDI for some vendors just means electronic data transmission in any form, web service, CSV, whatever. Yes. And so Jeremy says, for BC people coming from afar, Dynamics, Minds, and Tech Days are very similar neighborhood on the calendar, so you could potentially attend both. And EDI means every disaster imaginable. So, yes, EDI has no real standards. This is from a Sabre Limited article that I just happened to find. And the biggest challenge I've seen is traditional EDI systems are $15,000, $20,000 just to get started. So they're very upfront in this blog article. I have since learned that there are some EDI vendors that are more SaaS-oriented, pay-as-you-go, subscription-based, and it could be as low as, say, $100 a month. I'm learning more about that and what it entails, if there are any limitations, but apparently the model is it's not re-implementing the entire EDI communication infrastructure from scratch for this customer and this trading partner. They apparently have the relationship with, so-and-so manufacturer, distributor, Walmart, Amazon, whatever, and they also have the plugin for Business Central, thus lowering the implementation costs and configuration costs so that you can take a BC customer, connect to Walmart for $100 a month, something to that effect. So I'm learning more about that, but it's not an area I work with at all. So I'm kind of hesitant. Do we get involved in this space and deal with it? If a customer asks for it and that's our customer, sure, we'll look into it. If a customer says, hey, I need an EDI expert, I would probably say I'm not the person to talk to. Anyway, Thursday. Moving on to Friday, Viernes today. My private jet is on the runway, fired up, waiting to go. My stewardesses, pilots are waiting for me. And so I'm going to wrap this up, grab my luggage, and head off to the airport to fly to Utah. And I'm going to have a meeting in Salt Lake and Park City, Utah, with my wonderful business partner, Tanya. So we're going to have a meeting. We're going to chat, talk about ERP Center of Excellence, a few projects that we have going on, such as ERP Center of Excellence update. And part of what I'm working on for the two new candidates is what I'm now calling the BC Academy for Application Consultants, or BC Consultants. And the idea is, I initially had a different timeline, but this is kind of a compressed, accelerated timeline, highly optimistic, I am told. I have received a warning. So this is for people who already speak English, very proficient with English. They will start out with some preparation, and then they will go into a minimum of a 3-month intensive boot camp, terminology, business process, accounting, BC training, BC practicums over the course of the 3 months. And they will then study for the MB 800. So very much boot camp, but it's part-time, assuming these people work full-time in El Salvador. And the whole time we'll be doing resume building, mock interviews, brand building, social media, presentations, teaching, very intensive course to not just work on the knowledge and the technical skills around Business Central, but just as much emphasis on the soft skills and being in front of people and doing remote meetings. And if all goes well and they pass the exam, we will do some partner interviews, and those will be real interviews with the opportunity for a consultant internship. So that's the plan. If you are interested in a consultant who comes out of the ERP Center for Excellence program, please hit me up, contact me, DM me, email me, get a hold of me. You know where to find me: Twitter, YouTube, yell. I am interested in talking to partners, companies, end users, customers, you name it, who would like to have a Business Central admin, developer, Power BI expert, whatever, in their organization. And obviously, this will be a newer person in the Business Central world, but they're not going to be commanding the same salary, right? Now, we are also looking to offer within the ERP Center of Excellence, say 6 or 12 months or more of actual hands-on work. So we'll essentially pay these people to work and get hands-on experience. And maybe you don't want to hire someone fresh out of the program, but you want someone with 1 year of experience. I'm open to that as well. Let me know. I'm open to feedback, looking to see how we can match skilled individuals with job opportunities and kind of address the claims that there is a shortage of expertise in the Business Central marketplace. Post a question in Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, anything. Let me see the Q&A light up. Come on, folks. Give me a question. Okay, on to the weekend. El fin de semana. My weekend, after I fly up to Utah, is to pick up a car and drive it back. And this is not just your average drive to the grocery store, folks. This is optimistically, say, 700-mile drive. And Google Maps says it's 10 to 10 and a half hours, but that's if you do not stop at all for 10 plus hours. So reality is it is a 12-hour drive. And then if I hit traffic coming back in LA, we're talking 13 plus hours. It is going to be brutal. I've done it many times before. It is my least favorite activity. I don't know if it's worse than a 13-hour flight. I'll have to think about that. It's probably not as bad because I do it during the day, but it is a brutal drive. So that's what I'm doing on Saturday is it's going to be rough. Okay, so since we're in turbo mode, I do not see Q&A, so I'm just gonna, let's see, what's a good question? What are you doing in your organization to learn? How do you address technical debt? Let's see. How do you implement training in your organization? How do you identify and address technical debt, right? What skills are you looking to add to your BC team? So let me know, like, how are you addressing learning, educational, professional development, technical debt, improving, becoming more efficient, better practices? What does that look like? Is that one Friday every month? Is that once every 6 months you have team meetings, educational sessions? I spoke to someone whose organization, I think he said they have a requirement of like 32, 40 hours of PTE per year. And that has to be registered of, not PTE, oh my gosh, of what is it? Continuing education, CPE? Continuing professional education, maybe that's it. 32 to 40 hours of formal CPE, and that is like real CPE that's managed by AICPA or whoever their accreditation organization is. And Yeah, I was pretty impressed by that. So they actually do an annual get together with their team where they do internal presentations that are CPE qualified. Francis says currently we're encouraging people on the team to get certified. So MB 800 and what's the BC Dev exam? MB 820 that just came out of beta, I believe. So those are good ones. I don't know that the certification is equivalent to education. You will learn something, but does passing the test or exam make you a better consultant or developer? Debate, right? Um, Jeremy says we should collab on this sometime soon. He can share how he works with partners to help them with this. That's right. I believe Jeremy, through Spare Brained Ideas, offers training and educational programs for partners. Happy to share with the audience some of the list of things that he looks for. Francis says they engaged a consultant to do remote training for them. So that's an option as well. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I'm focusing on now with El Salvador. So with that, turbo mode is wrapping up. And thank you for joining. And I hope you're liking the new weekly format. And Necesito Cafe. Enjoy. My Learjet awaits. It is fired up on the runway, and I am off to Utah. Okay. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. Enjoy and go learn something. Adios.